What's up YouTube? Back in today with another video, and today we're going to be working on the LTD. What are we getting into today, you ask?
Maybe Mom and Dad would like some music.
Yeah.
He's good with music, you know. Doof doof.
Okay, so we're not quite getting into something today. It's actually going to be tomorrow. However, this video is going to go back in time about 3-4 weeks when I actually started trying to do this video. Lost track of time, got busy, yada yada yada. I didn't have enough time to be doing this full time, so we're going to compile 3 weeks, 4 weeks worth of videos, try and put it into one video. Hopefully it all makes sense somewhat. It's going to be bits and pieces from different weeks. So basically, what are we getting into in this video? We're going to be doing an audio upgrade on the LTD. Everything worked mint when I first got it, but now everything's starting to turn to shit. It's got faults all over the place. Speakers are all crackly. The sub is not working anymore. The head unit is starting to play random games with me. It doesn't have radio reception anymore. Not too sure what the hell's going on there. The volume button works in reverse, and sometimes it doesn't work at all. So I'm going to rip all of the factory stuff out. I've bought a whole gang of upgrade things, which are really basic upgrades, but they're going to be a hell of a lot better than what we got in the car already. And hopefully tomorrow we'll fit it all up, or most of it. This could turn into a video that's compiled of about 5 weeks. So without further ado, let's get to work on this thing right here. So what do we got here? Hey, what are you up to? So we're going to pull the head unit out. This stereo here, this factory head unit, it's okay if you're back in 1997. Otherwise, that's rubbish. So right now, I don't have the key on me. Oh, that's interesting. You can turn the stereo on without it actually having a key in the ignition. Okay, that's cool. Learn something new every day. So if you turn this volume to the right, it goes off. And if you turn it to the left, it goes on. And then sometimes it just goes haywire and doesn't work at all. Anyway, it's going. So I'm pulling that out. I'm putting a double DIN head unit in there. So Kenwood double DIN head unit, real basic, has Bluetooth. I don't know much else about it apart from that it was on special. Good enough for me. Cheapest wiring kit I could buy off off Marketplace. Should do the job. It's only 8 gauge, so basically all I needed was the RCAs because I don't have any RCAs spare at the moment, so 20 bucks for that should do the job. Front speakers, Rockford Fosgate, again real basic upgrade. So these are a 6 or a 6.5 inch woofer, fairly shallow, shouldn't interfere with the window going up and down at the back. Probably a 1 inch soft dome tweeter. Usually all the components these days come with a soft dome tweeter. All the wiring you need that I probably won't even bloody use, to be honest, but whatever, it's all there. So that's that. They have a built-in crossover, so you don't really have to worry about trying to wire in crossover boxes externally and whatnot. It just gets messy, and yeah, I don't have time for that. So that's that. In terms of the rear, just some real basic 3-way coaxials. So these will just go straight in basically. I'll run some new wiring to this. This one I'll probably use the existing wiring, chuck that bad boy in to run the show, and we on. Alright, so Sunday today, just woken up. It's going to be a big day. So what are we doing right now? We're going to pull the head unit out first. I was going to do speakers and I thought, doesn't really matter, it's all got to come out regardless. So we'll get stuck into getting this head unit out first, then we'll go from there. So it's been a while since I've done an E-series, but it's all pretty straightforward from memory. Just need to take this out obviously. Oh, that's great. There isn't even a screw in there by the looks of it. But anyway, got to pop that out. Usually you'd get a Phillips screwdriver, there would be a screw in here, but there's nothing, so that's fine. Take that out as well. I believe that should just pop out. There we go. That should just sort of come out. Come on mate, don't be stubborn. There we go. So that's out. Disconnect the illumination for the cigarette lighter, which is just this little twist tab thing. So that's the light out, and then we will take the cigarette lighter plug out. Put that carefully off to the side because this stuff is extremely rare and it's already cracked, but that's okay. So these have some weird Torx bits over here which are anti-tamper. They've got this little lump right in the middle, so you can't actually get a normal Torx bit on that screw, and that's where these come in handy. So I believe it's either a T20 or a T25. It's a T20. So you need one of these. They've got a little hole in the middle. Just work your way around, loosen all of these off, loosen them all off, and then the entire thing should just slot straight out towards you. Okay, so once you've got all those 4 screws removed from the brackets, just grab this and give it a bit of a yank. It should just actually come straight up. Anyway, we'll disconnect the looms and then we'll take these brackets off. I usually just reuse these brackets and re-drill them to suit the new head unit, and because they actually fit in that location quite nicely. So yeah, so we'll unplug this and then we'll sort out the wiring. She's out. Whole gang load of wiring. Don't know which one's which. Should be easy enough to figure it out though. So yeah, that is the big mammoth sized unit that these things run. And the one that I'm replacing it with, it doesn't have any CD player or anything like that. It's probably literally less than half the weight of this thing. But it has Bluetooth, USB, all that sort of stuff. So pretty excited to chuck this new one in. This is the head unit in here. All sorts of weird stuff. Manual, don't need. Manual for the time being. So, that is our double DIN head unit right there. Oh my god. Piss off. That is our double DIN head unit right there. As you can see, it is quite a miniature little unit, but should do the job. Came with a whole bunch of wiring, so we'll need that. Screws, maybe we might need that. Steering wheel, no. Bluetooth, yes. So, I plan for the Bluetooth. Routes it up and behind the dash, go in behind the pillar, up along the top, across here, and I'll probably put the Bluetooth mic just up here somewhere so it's sort of centered to the car. Either there or up in the corner. Doesn't matter, it's going to be up there somewhere. What I am going to do as well while I'm putting this head unit in is prep the amp wiring. So in here there is a whole bunch of things to wire the amp in. Obviously you've got your power wire, you've got your earth wire, ground wire, whatever you want to call it. You've got your inline fuse that runs on the power cable that goes from the battery to the amp. You've got a remote wire in there as well, which is just the blue small wire, which basically runs off the head unit. So every time the head unit is powered up, it sends through that remote wire to the amp at the back, so it powers it up. And when you switch it off, obviously it switches the amp off. So yeah, so we'll sort that out. But the main one that I wanted to get in here was the RCAs. I've actually got a whole gang of power cable already. I'll probably end up just using this stuff because it's a full kit. But it was cheaper to just buy an entire kit than it was to just buy the RCAs by themselves. So RCAs I'm going to have to run up in this area as well as the remote wire. So I'll route that now, have it all ready to go, plug it into the back of the head unit, and then that's ready for when I get to wiring the amp up. So this is probably the biggest pain in the ass in terms of this job, to be honest, is wiring this part of it up. I'll just use a test light or a multimeter, try and figure out which one is your ignition source, so that's the one that's switchable with the key, which one is your constant 12 volt source, which is directly from the battery essentially, because they don't really wire these in a logical way where it's just like red is ignition source, yellow is 12 volt constant. Tell me where those are in this. Yeah, it's not that logical. Anyway, it's easy to figure out, it's just time consuming sometimes when you don't know which ones you need and which ones you don't. I end up just taking what I need. I'll figure out which ones are the speaker wires, which I have a feeling are just these ones on the right hand side of the loom. If that's the case, I will tap into those wires for the front speakers at least. I have a feeling the rear speakers are wired up directly to the amp channels, which I don't really want in this case, so I will run new speaker wires to the rear from the head unit, and the amp will just run the sub. Okay, so a couple of ways you can do this. Like I was saying, test light or the multimeter. At the moment I've just grounded everything to the antenna connection, which is basically a ground, and I've got obviously the positive probe on the multimeter itself. So if I probe certain wires, it'll show whether it's 12 volts when it's probed, or whether it's 0, saying that it's got no power going to it. These two on the end, the black with pink trace I believe it is, and the blue with, I think it's pink trace as well. It's hard to tell from here, but those both seem to be live, and the black with pink trace seems to have 12 volt constant, because right now the ignition is off, key is out. It's actually still showing 12 volts, and the one next to it on the left side of it, the blue with white or pink trace, shows 0. However, put the key in, we shall check that again and see that it actually does have 12 volts, well, thereabouts, on that blue wire. So that tells me blue with white trace or pink trace, whatever it is your ignition source. The black and pink trace would be your battery constant. So those are two wires that I know of that I can wire up to my wiring loom. And if you don't have a multimeter, you can check it with the test light. So like I was saying, that black one in there, the light's on. The blue one, lights on. Take the key out, check that again. Black one, lights on. Blue one, no lights. So yeah, easy as that. So I've just wired up the 12 volt constant and the ignition source to the loom for the new head unit. I'm just going to really quickly power this up and then just verify that everything sort of powers up as it should. This is just a quick test before you go the whole hog. You can actually wire every single thing up, at least to double check that your wiring is correct. Alright, so those are those two live wires. So the yellow is your memory 12 volt constant, red is your ignition source, switchable by the key. This little black one here, that's just your ground. And then hopefully when we turn the key, it doesn't go boom. There we go. A little bit hard to see in behind there, but it's just asking for language. There we go, some lights. Fancy, fancy. Okay, so in theory, if I turn the key off, it should just go off. Beautiful. Okay, so that's real hard and fast, but you know, just verify that you've got the right wires before you go the rest of the way, and then find out that, oh shit, I've connected this to the wrong thing and it's blowing up or blowing some fuses or whatnot. So go through now. I'll actually get these connections properly sorted. I'll crimp a little spade terminal so that it fits into the existing female connector. I will figure out which wires are which for the speakers, which I believe are just these orange ones here on the end of the loom, orange and grey. So those will hook up to the factory loom. So we're on to wiring up the trigger wire or remote wire for the amp and also for the antenna. So that's this one here. And what I'm going to do is, this is the new remote wire for the amp, and the red with blue trace, which is this one here. This is actually the antenna wire. So I will join those two together, put a terminal on it, and then I will connect that directly to this wire, and then that should be those out of the way, and then the speaker wires will get done next, which are these ones. So the grey pair, that's for the driver's side fronts, or the white pair are for the passenger side front, and these ones here, the green and the purple, are for the rear speakers, which actually might be easier than I thought, because there's actually a spare loom here, and for some reason I have a feeling these might be speaker wire connections for the low series head units. So if this wiring actually goes all the way to the boot, I won't have to run new speaker wires. I can literally tap into those, figure out whereabouts in the back those wires actually are, and then just use those instead of the ones that are running to the amp. So that might be easier than I thought. Alright, so front speakers are wired up, that's all connected now. Still have the rear ones to do, but I'll do that later. So we'll plug this in to see whether the antenna works. We'll check to see if the speakers work, and then yeah, we'll get stuck into figuring out where these need to go. Alright, moment of truth, round 2. Okay, so it all powers up. We will press volume knob, English. Cancel demo, press volume knob. Yeah, turn the demo off. Alright, so it powers up. Alright, just give me radio. Antenna works, beautiful. Cool. And that's just me pressing the button, so. Sounds like I've got static all around. We want to go to find balance. Balance left. So we've got static coming from there. We want static coming from the right. So static coming from there. Static coming from the left. So we got the speakers in the right orientation. I'm not actually going to play any music because then I'll get hit with the copyright again. My last video got hit with the copyright for music playing in the background, so I ain't about to do that again because it's a waste of time. Anyway, that looks good. I'm actually going to go test it out with some actual music now off camera, and yeah, figure out the rear speaker wiring. Might have to switch some wires at the back, and then once I've got that nailed, it'll be a case of just swapping the speakers over and getting those all mounted up. So getting close now. What's up, people? It's a new weekend and another new day. So it's Saturday today. Anyway, what we're doing today, picking up from where we left off last weekend, and we're going to get stuck into some more wiring for the stereo. So where we got up to last time, we hooked up some of the speaker wires. I still have the rear wires to connect up, which are these 4 right here. So 2 purples and the 2 greens. I can't remember which side is which, but we'll find out. While we're in here, I managed to find that there was a loom that had colours that I've recognised from past cars that I've done installs in, and it's usually pink and blue that are speaker wires, for this particular range of Fords at least. So this plug was unused in terms of the factory stereo, and that is because the factory Ford amplifier runs the sub in the rear and the 2 rear speakers. Why? I don't know, but that's how it is, and we're going to change that. So I'm going to have a look in the boot, and we will see what the wires are that are going to the rear speakers. And if it's anything like my EL Fairmont gear, which you've seen on the channel already, highly likely there's actually looms there, which will be basically just sitting there tied up and not doing anything. So we'll go and check that, and if that's the case, I'll flick the looms around and just see if I can get the rear speakers to get powered up by the head unit. It'll save me having to run wires, because then I'm going to have to pull up more panels and whatnot. I'm already going to have to pull up panels to run power and RCAs and whatnot to the amplifier. Anyway, doesn't matter. I've bored you enough with the details. So what we'll do is we'll go get this wiring sorted and see what happens with the rear speakers. Today I would like to get the head unit mounted up and everything. Unfortunately, it's going to need some back panel surround type thing to fill in the gap properly. Haven't thought of what I'm going to do yet, but I did see TRL Industries does a head unit surround piece that sort of fills the gap and you just trim it to suit. So TRL Industries, I will be in touch because I'm going to need something for this. Anyway, let's get into it. Anyway, I've just figured out that the wiring is actually there for the factory speaker connection to the stereo itself, which is this white plug, and the black one is actually the one that's wired directly to the channels of the amp. So I'm going to connect this white plug to the speaker now, and then I'm going to do the same on this, because there the white plug is up there tucked up and behind some other wire that's going to the OG 6 CD stacker boy. And yeah, there's a wiring there. So it's startling revelation as well. Like, look at the mounting nuts for the speakers. I don't know if you can see the gap right there. Look at that. Is that speaker even mounted? Like, check this out. Okay, look. Look at that. Not even tight, mate. So that's where all my rattles have been coming from. So if I tighten up these nuts, then maybe I might have some decent sounding speakers, but I'm going to pull them out anyway because they're all old. But first we'll see if they work, and then yeah, we shall go from there. Alright, so figured out the speaker wiring, everything seems to work, so that's good. So now we're going to look at mounting up the head unit itself. I don't have much of a plan here apart from just reusing the factory stereo brackets. So I've pulled those off the original head unit and we're just going to dummy mount those up, see if we can fit the head unit in, get it in a position where it looks like it's relatively centered around the stereo surround trim, and then probably just going to either drill the brackets, or if they line up with a hole, just mount them and see how it looks. Sort of set them in place roughly like those on this side. That's actually how the factory ones sit. Obviously you've got the two mounting screws that go in there. I'll just tuck the wiring to the back for now, and then I'll just slip the head unit in there and just see how it looks. So head unit here, it's nice and compact. Basically just sort of jimmy it in there a bit, I guess. Just try and get it to fit in there without smashing anything. It's a bit of a tight squeeze, but that's probably a good thing. If it's in there nicely, then it's not likely to bloody move around and whatnot. So, come on, mate. Oh, get the bloody hell in there, you dog. Yeah, she's pretty tight fit, so bear with me here. Alright, so that's sitting in there roughly. Sitting in there roughly as well, so you can sort of just adjust this to sit where you really want it, to be honest. So at the moment that looks fairly centered. Obviously there is truckloads of gap around this thing, So I'm gonna need some sort of little trim surround that can hide that a bit better. We'll buy something from TRL Industries and see if we can get that to fill in the gaps. So I think that sits about even-ish there. Pull that out. And then we'll see if we can mark up the head unit with where it's sitting in relation to the brackets. I'm just probably going to get a red marker, put some little lines somewhere on the side of the head unit at least, just so I can see how close it needs to be to the mounting points. Somewhere up here, just mark it. So then we can fit these brackets up, get all the wiring hooked back up, put it all back in place, and should be happy days. Okay, so we've marked up the head unit, and we've marked it here and here. So I've just got to line up the top mounting part, which is there, sort of within those two marks, which is about there, and then hope that something lines up. And if it doesn't, we're going to have to drill the bracket. But if something lines up, at least we can mount that first and then mark the rest. So right now, that looks close-ish, but it's sitting too high. So we might need to come down a bit and something else. Oh, there's one down here. It doesn't look too bad. It looks about right. So I think we'll mount this little one down here right at the bottom. We'll mount the screw through there, and then we'll see if we can line something else up the top and just drill a hole through and put another mounting screw in there to secure it. Brackets are all mounted up on the head unit. So what are we getting into now? We're going to take all this stuff out. So a couple of screws in here, one screw under here, another screw under here, 1, 2, 3 screws under here, and then we will take this entire dash fascia off and take the dash mat out. I'm going to take this little cowl panel out over here. Let's chuck that in the back seat for now. Take this little cowl panel out, 2 screws, 1 in each corner, pop that out, and I have to run this little bad boy here, Bluetooth mic, up in behind this, underneath this dash pad, along here, up the A-pillar, along here. Hopefully pop the wiring up from here, clip the Bluetooth mic into here, remove this because I don't know what the hell that's linked up to, and then we should have a Bluetooth mic that works, and it's somewhat hidden. So that's the plan of attack at least. I hope that's going to work. I think it should be fine. I've done the same in my ute before and it sort of worked out alright. It's a nice position. And then we'll have to put it all back together again. So, Bluetooth mic, the wire's going to go through there, up under here, where this loom comes out. Actually sort of comes up here somewhere, I believe. So I'll pop this panel out, run the wiring along through here, up along here, and behind this, stick it there, and then yeah, we will pop all of this stuff back together, and hopefully it all works again. It should, it'll be fine. I've done this plenty of times. Okay, so that's the head unit all installed now. Obviously you can see there is a fairly large gap around the outside edge of the head unit. So I'm planning to fix that with a faceplate surround trim that you can buy from TRL Industries. So we'll get one of those, fit it, and should be all good to go. Bluetooth mic's all hooked up and works quite nicely. The wiring's all concealed in behind the dash and the trims and everything, so that's quite good. So now we'll get on to wiring up the front speakers, and we'll go into the boot and start wiring up the amplifier as well. So now we're going to get into mounting the amplifier that's going to run the subwoofer. So basically what I was looking at doing was running the original Ford amplifier. It is very basic. 2 channels are for the rear speakers, 1 channel was bridged for the subwoofer that's factory fitted. In the premium sound cars, it is fairly low powered, so ideally I would like to go with something with a little bit more power. So one of the boys, Shot hooked it up with a old school Panasonic monoblock amp, and I'm going to make use of that. So we'll see if I can take the old amplifier off its original mounting bracket, see if I can retrofit this Panasonic amp to the mounting bracket, and just see if I can make it work. So we'll go have a look at the amps anyway. Factory amp lives behind the cover of the right hand side of the boot. So I've drilled out the 2 rivets that hold it up there, and then I'm just about to loosen this screw down here. This should just pull away and reveal this masterpiece. So this is the original Ford amp here. It comes with this nice bracket, and this just fits in behind the driver's side panels of the boot. And this is the amp I'm looking at replacing it with. So this is a monoblock, slightly beefier. So nothing too fancy, but it should get the job done. Alright, so that's the factory amp removed. Now we're going to dummy this up, and the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to mount it upside down. So I think I'm going to get it to sit in that orientation. So the wiring will come in from this way. The rear side of the boot will be here, so at least I'll have all the access to all your dials for adjustment. So I can still tune it and I don't have to do anything weird around the other side. This amp is a little bit bigger footprint than the other one, so it does overhang the bracket a little bit here, but should be able to mount that nicely in there. The RCA cables that I've got have actually got a right angle connection on them, so that'll fit in there nicely. Hopefully it still fits up with the factory mounting points. Not entirely sure yet, we'll see. Alright, so amps all mounted. Nice and solid, doesn't fall apart. We on. So like I was saying earlier, this one just slots in this position over here. A little bit hard to see, so we'll turn the light on. So it just slots in behind here, so it's going to sit in that way. So we've got 1 mounting point, 2 mounting points, 3 mounting points. So yeah, that should work out okay. Alright, so positive terminal there. I'm going to mount this fuse holder somewhere. It's got an 80 amp fuse in there for this particular wire. So I'm going to run it through down here, up through here, follow that through into that hole. And then this slips away onto the side of that grommet. Now that grommet is actually just up there. And then we'll basically just pull this wire through, so from where it is there, through the firewall. We're going to route this down through here, under the carpet, carry on under this panel, up through here, and under the back seat, through into the boot. Alright, so amp's all hooked up now, sub's all hooked up to the amp, everything's working well. As you will see, if you've been in the car audio scene from way back in the day, you'll probably recognize that subwoofer as being like an early 2000s sort of model. I've had this subwoofer in my stash for probably a good 10 plus years. Probably well suited to that amplifier. The amp is not overly powerful. The old school Polk Momo subs, they actually weren't too bad. So pretty basic setup. So it's in a sealed box. The box itself is, yeah, just one of those prefabbed ones. I think it's around the 1 cubic foot sort of volume. And sounds quite good for a cheapie, so yeah, happy with that. Obviously I'm not going to play any music in this video because I'll get hit with the copyright and I don't have time for that. For the time being, I'm going to keep running the rear speakers as the factory ones. They actually still sound relatively good. Makes a massive difference when the speakers are actually tightened up all the way like they should be, not like how they were rattling around before. That's what was causing all the crackles and all sorts of weird noises that I was getting in the rear. Those speakers were basically just jumping around doing whatever they wanted to, so that's all fixed. The foam surrounds are all still there, so I think for the time being I'll just connect those back up. Realistically, it's just for rear fill anyway, so at some point I want to take the parcel shelf carpet out, sound deaden the parcel shelf to take out any vibrations, and I want to remove the factory subwoofer, which is actually mounted in the center of the parcel shelf. So when I get around to that eventually, I will probably change the rear speakers out then, because everything's going to have to come out anyway. So we will sort that out at a later date. For now, I'm going to turn my attention to the front speakers now. Obviously, I've got the Rockford Fosgate component speakers that I'm looking at fitting up in the front. Probably not going to have time to do it this weekend. Too many things on, so I'll catch up on this again probably in another week or two when I actually have time to do this properly. We will get into that when I can. So this video's probably going to skip forward a little bit, and then yeah, we'll finish off with the front speakers. Alright, it's hot as shit today, so we're doing some work on the front speakers. I'm going to replace the factory ones with some component speakers by Rockford Fosgate. These are pretty budget friendly, so I just went with something cheap that was going to fit into the car without too many drums, and something that will sound relatively nice. It'll be better than the factory speakers at least, and that's all I'm worried about. Don't need those, we will need this. So that's what we're looking at right there. Fairly slim line, and yeah, these will be going into the front doors. They have a separate tweeter, so the tweeter and the woofer are two separate items. So these basically just run in line with the woofer. You don't need to worry about an external crossover box, so that's another easy option. I can basically mount the woofer, run the tweeter wires directly off the back end of the woofer because it has two sets of terminals, and yeah, should be nice and easy. First things first, I'm going to take the door trim off. I've already done the driver's side, so that's all wired in. Sounds pretty good. So now we're going to do the passenger side. While we've got door trims off and we're doing the speakers, I'm going to sound deaden the door a little bit. I've done this in a few of my cars now, and it actually makes a massive difference to sound quality. Not to mention it sort of cuts down on road noise if you put it in the right spots of the car. So we're going to sound deaden the doors with some Dynamite Extreme. Like I was saying, I've already done the driver's side front door, so I'm going to do the passenger side now, and we'll just chuck it on time lapse and let it do its thing. We're getting the door trim off. One screw here, another screw here, another screw here, another screw here, so these all need to be removed. Once that screw is removed, that panel can just pop straight out. Got another 2 screws here, and then another 3 along the bottom side of the door. There should be 1, 2, and 3 there. Once we've got those 3 off, we need to pop this little panel out from behind the door handle. There's a screw in behind there, so that will come out, and you just have to maneuver it off the little hook for the door handle. Pop this little thing out, pop this little thing out. There's 2 screws in behind here and here, and then basically you should be able to just jimmy this entire door trim up. There's little clips in here, so the door trim will just pop straight up. There is a loom in this one as well for the lights, so you'll need to unplug that, and yeah, that should be pretty much it. comes off. That's the factory speaker made by Alpine for Ford. So 3 screws holding this speaker in. It's a weird Torx screw, so if you don't have that particular bit you can just use a normal socket. In this case 316, just fits on there, comes off pretty easy. Sometimes these can be a little bit stubborn because the foam around the outside edge of it seems to just sort of act as a glue, I guess you could say. So you might have to lever it off like so. Eventually it should just sort of pull away. And as you can see, a little bit of corrosion in there. Doesn't matter. I'm basically going to cut all of this away anyway. Don't need this particular. And then this should just pop off. Again, because it's foam, it sometimes gets a little bit stuck on there. Should be able to just lift that away carefully. We're going to reuse most of this because it helps with the sound deadening of the door. It should just sort of come away like that. And yeah. Okay, so now that we've got the door bare, we're going to fit some Dynamat up. So the Dynamat will actually take the tinniness out of the door a bit, and it should absorb a few of the rattles. So we'll do majority of this door. We'll do this little section behind it because this is actually really hollow in here. We'll do as much as we can at least, and then yeah, we'll get the speaker mounted up and put it all back together. We've also drilled some new holes as well for the speaker. The speaker actually only had 2 holes that would line up with the existing holes, and that hole would be way up. So I've drilled some new holes, and yeah, this should get it mounted nicely. So first things first, wipe the door down with a bit of wax and grease remover, just so we've got a chance of getting this Dynamat to stick. Just to remove any dirt and dust and hopefully get some clean surface for the Dynamat to stick to. What is it, Grace? Hey, you helping install the Dynamat today? No? Okay. And the thing with Dynamat is you don't actually need to apply it to every single surface. It's one of those things, you just apply it to the main sections that are, you know, flimsy in terms of where the panels flex and whatnot. So something like this would be enough to deaden that entire section of the door. So yeah, don't be afraid if you can't actually get around every single bit of the panel. Some of this is definitely better than none. So so yeah, get into it. So yeah, you don't really need a special tool to apply this. Basically just press it on as well as you can. Just be mindful of any holes and whatnot that you might need access to, or bolts, rivets, whatnot. Obviously you don't want to cover screw holes and stuff like that, so yeah, just be mindful of that. Cut around them if you can. Don't need a roller, but a roller does definitely help. Luckily the guy I bought this kit off from Marketplace just had a half of the bulk kit left over, so he gave me a good, I think a good 5 full sheets and a roller. So use that if you have access to it. Just makes it easier to get the mat to sit down nicely. So yeah, like I was saying, you can sort of just cut around the important bits that you need access to. In this case we've got a couple of 10mm bolts that hold the window frame in. So obviously we'll need access to those, so yeah, just get a craft knife and cut around it. Happy days. And as I was saying, like, you don't need to actually fully deaden the panel. I'll just give this a bit of a flick test, so you can hear how hollow that is. So I'll just put this little piece up inside there. Like I was saying, doesn't have to be covering the entire panel. Whatever you can get in there. This panel's way bigger than what that actually covers. But like I was saying, some of this is better than none of this, so just apply that. So we've got that applied now, so we'll give it another bit of a flick test and see how it sounds now. Okay, so that's the door sound deadened. Now we're going to turn our attention to this section here, which is where this stuff comes in. So I'm going to put foam tape around here just to fill in the gaps and stuff and make sure that the speaker actually seals to the door nicely. Foam backing to seal around the edge of the speaker. We're now going to mount the speaker. Before I do that, I'm going to unpick the two terminals out of the factory plug. Basically just going to clip these onto the terminals of the speaker. You'll see that there's two spade terminals on each of the positive and the negative. Basically that will go to one of the terminals on each, and the other two will be for this. Which is the tweeter. So this already has terminals crimped on the end of the wiring. I'm going to cut these off and attach it to the other two terminals on the back of the woofer. Run the wiring up through up here, and the tweeter is going to sit in this section of the door here where there's a little triangle panel. And yeah, easy as that. Alright, so just dummy mounting the speaker at the moment, so use the factory screw up there because the hole's already bigger than the screws that I'm going to be using for the rest of the holes. Can't really see where the holes are because of the foam, but once you line up one or two of them, you can find the holes pretty easy. So apart from that, I've just unpicked this part of the loom down here from the door. There's a little clip there. What I'm going to do is just tape the wires for the tweeter to that loom just so they're not floating in the back of that panel. The window goes up and down at the back there, so you just want to make sure that the wires are actually tucked out of the way. And once they're taped to that loom, you can just clip that back in. That'll just run up the door to that area where I want to mount the tweeter. So yeah, so we've got one there, another one here. Like I was saying, one at the bottom, one at the top. I hate using these, but they actually come in really handy. These go on the back side of the door. Screw goes through that hole, and yeah, basically acts as like a locking tab, I guess. So as you tighten it, that sort of presses on the back and yeah, just keeps it secure. just put a couple of terminals on the tweeter wiring, likewise on the tweeter itself. No absolute must for doing this, it's just something I do, just so if I want to take the door trim off I can just unplug the tweeter from there instead of having one continuous loom where you can't actually remove that if you wanted to. We'll chuck the factory foam cover back on, put the door trim on. Putting the door trim on is actually really straightforward. It just clips down inside these little clips here. Yeah, basically just push that down. Then yeah, obviously you've got all your mounting screws around the perimeter of the door. 2 mounting screws for the armrest grab handle, then the mounting for the door handle itself. And then yeah, we'll attack the tweeter mounting on this next. So that's the foam inner put back in. I like to tape that up as well, just to hold that in place. If you don't tape that up, it can just fall back down, especially when you're putting the door trim back on, it's a pain in the ass. Apart from that, this just basically just sits in there as you see it. There is a couple of pockets where it sort of locates into, and that's enough to actually hold it in place majority of the time. Obviously if you've got the high series, you've got a loom here for the little courtesy light that's down there. Obviously make sure your linkage for your door handles come through and all that. Now, while I've got the door trim off, I'm actually going to give this a bit of a tidy up. As you can see, got marks. It's a bit grubby up there. Not to mention, this has probably never been cleaned for a good portion of its life. These wood grain spares on the door, very hard to find, especially if it's an LTD. And the last thing I want is that breaking off. This has clips on the underside of it, just in there. You can see that one's broken off. I'm not going to bother trying to plastic weld anything to get the mounting tabs back. Basically what I do is use this stuff here. So this is 3M double-sided moulding tape. This stuff is super thin and extremely sticky, so you can basically cut little strips of it, pop it up underneath there, and then when you press it down it basically just sticks itself down. I've done this on numerous cars and it seems to work really well. Of this, I'm just going to go ahead and clean the rest of this door trim up, chuck it back on the car, and then we'll get stuck into mounting up this tweeter. So that is about as clean as I'm going to get it. The leather is a little bit worn on these armrests, and it almost looks like someone's had something jammed up against that at some stage, because I can't pop that back out, but probably get these retrimmed at some stage. Now the tweeter I'm going to mount this panel right here. So effectively what you're going to have to do if you are mounting it here is basically just dummy up where you want it to sit, mark it. You're going to have to drill a couple of holes in here for the mounting, and also to let the wires pass through this panel to link up with those ones. Yeah, I'm just going to go figure out where I want to mount this, just to make sure it actually does clear all of the section in here. As you can see on the opposite side door, I've already got that passenger side one mounted up there in the little triangle sail piece. So what we need to do is figure out where we need to mount this one. So close the door with that panel in place, obviously, and then we're going to sort of just have a look and see where this will sit nicely, which I think about there would be mint. We actually angled it upwards slightly. It sort of just brings the sound stage a little bit higher, which is good. I usually stick with that sort of location in all of my other E-series. It angles off that upwards, not directed anywhere, other than just basically center, sort of center-ish of the dash, if anything. So basically they'll just be firing straight across. Generally, in my opinion, it sounds pretty good that way. Tweeters are actually pretty directional, so If you have them aimed directly, it's quite apparent where the noise is coming from. I don't know how most people like their sound systems to sound in their cars, but I prefer to have it so that it's almost like the sound is coming from in front of you. Yeah, so that's where I'm going to mount them. Personal preference. This is the way that I'm doing it. So yeah, we'll get this mounted up and then give it a sound check. So I've just mounted up the base for the tweeter. I've just put 2 self-tapping screws through there, so I'm just going to file down these ends because they don't actually need to be that far through. There is room for them to go through, but I don't want them touching the door. So yeah, I'll file the points down a bit just so we've got a bit of clearance. I've drilled a big hole through there just so that we can run the wiring through that little hole. And then yeah, the tweeter sits in there, it's got a little retaining cap, and then yeah, you can pivot to wherever you need it to get the right sound. So, finished product, like I was saying, you can pivot it to wherever you want to, because it's actually got a little bit of a swivel feature to it. Yeah, go mount this in the car. So, got those all connected up now. Just put a little bit of tape around them to cover over the exposed part of the terminal. And then that should just sort of clip back in there. A little clip that goes into that little part there. Done. Mounting screw, which is the wrong one, but it's what I'm going to use because that's what it had there. Job done. So now let me close the door. Clears. It's got a slight angle upwards. And like I was saying, you can pivot that tweeter to give it a little bit more on axis, off axis direction to give you the sound that you're after. Alright, so that's the audio install for the LTD finally done, for the time being at least. I haven't done the rear speakers just yet. My intention is to do that eventually, but I want to take the parcel shelf carpet out completely, sound deaden that entire surface, and remove the factory subwoofer as well, because that's still mounted currently and it's not wired up, so it's basically sitting there doing nothing. So we'll attack that all at one time, but yeah, the rest of the system's done. New head unit, everything works, so I've got Bluetooth, USB functionality, so it just works a hell of a lot better. I've got a lot more tuning features as well. The new front speakers are installed as well, which is awesome. The front doors have been sound deadened a little bit, but that makes a massive difference to sound quality already, just comparing to the old setup versus the new. And I've also got the amplifier and the subwoofer hooked up as well, so that's filling the low frequencies very nicely at the moment. Like I was saying, this is all done relatively cheap. There isn't any expensive gear in this car. It's just cheap stuff that I found on sale. So I think the head unit cost me about 180 bucks. The front speakers were about 200. The sub I've had sitting around for about 10 plus years. And the amp I got off one of the boys, again, shot opera. Yeah, that's probably set me back a couple of $100, 500 bucks maybe, if that. So yeah, relatively cheap install, but makes a massive difference over the factory system that's extremely old now. So yeah, that's it for this video. It is a bit of a long video this time round. I think it's probably going to be close to an hour, if not slightly over an hour. But mind you, this video started back in October of 2024 and we're now in April of 2025. So there's a hell of a lot of videos compiled over the weekends that I have had free to try and do some work on this thing. Either way, job is finally done. So on that note, that brings us to the end of this video. Thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate the support as always. Until next time, ciao ciao.